Hello and thanks for joining the channel today for this episode where we're going to be freeze drying some ingredients for some backpacking recipes. We're going to be doing 4 ingredients. We're going to be doing Stubbs barbecue sauce, some marinara, some salad size shrimp for faster, more uniform rehydration in the field, and then we're experimenting with some Texas toast to round off a barbecue meal that we're doing. So stay tuned, we're going to dive right in. Here we go. Okay, so these items are all pre-frozen, and we've got the Texas toast on the bottom, and then we've got the salad size shrimp, whole tray of those, and then we've got 2 different kinds of sauces. These were pre-frozen in the silicone trays that you've seen me use before. And we've got marinara here on the left, 6 blocks of those. That's a whole big jar, 32 ounce, I think. And then we've got a whole jar of barbecue sauce, the Stubbs original, in the 6 of these little squares. So I'm gonna get those done, and then just more shrimp. So we're gonna get the insulating cover on. Come back when it's done. All right, we're back. It's been about 27 hours, and that included 6 hours of additional dry time that I just added because I didn't want to stop and check it. And so there's the toast. And of course, toast is real easy. So we got some nice Texas toast croutons there. No real question about that. Here are the shrimp, and they're warm and they're fill freeze dried. They taste freeze dried. And here's the real one we're concerned about. So let's check these out. And it is warm to the touch all around. Yeah, I have to use 2 hands to break that open and see. That one's crumbly on the top. It'd take 2 hands to break that one open too. So that would be my concern, and we'll check those in a moment. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure these are all successfully freeze dried. So let me put the camera down, break into a couple of these, and we'll take a look at the insides, because you definitely want to make sure that these are done through and through. Okay, so right in the very center, and it's a small spot, it's right there, is cold to the touch. And it may not be a lot of ice, but I'm pretty sure these are going to go back in for additional dry time. It's the same spot on both of them, is cold to the touch, and I can smush into it. This is the marinara. So I'm pretty sure there's just a little bit of moisture left in the marinara blocks. Now, the barbecue sauce, I don't think that's the case. So everything is warm through and through. And I think it's just because it's probably a higher sugar content that it was difficult to break. Because normally, at least if they're low sugar content, they're pretty powdery. And this is not that way. This is very durable product. And so I think what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and stick these back on, and we're going to add more dry time and let them go, I don't know, maybe another 6 hours or so. That may be overkill, but You definitely want these when you're doing anything that's this thick, that's a high water content. You definitely want to make certain before you bag it up that it's completely freeze-dried. So we're going to stick these back in and add more dry time. All right, we'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, so been about 4.5 hours of extra dry time, and don't really need to check that. That was fine before. These were fine before, and it was really just these that we were concerned with. So those certainly are warm. They were warm on the bottom last time, but they're warm in the center of those. Oh, that's pretty light. Yeah. So I think these are done. I'm surprised that that deflated that way, the barbecue sauce. It's just must be a lot of sugar in that. It's hot, not like burn you hot, but I mean it's more than warm. I mean it's hot. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pack this stuff up, and I think we'll probably do a rehydration on the marinara, and we'll see how this rehydrates. My concern with the barbecue sauce is that it's like tightened up so much compared to what it was originally, because look how much it shrunk. You know, it was like that, and now it's tightened up quite a bit. So we may have to powder that. Not really. In the past, I've powdered up the marinara, but I think you lose that little bit of tomato texture when you do that. So anyway, we're going to turn off the freeze dryer and get the defrost started, get these packed up. Okay, we ended up with 2 quart jars full of the shrimp, and when we started, we used 32 ounces, 2 pounds of frozen salad shrimp, and we ended up with 16 ounces frozen, freeze dried per quart jar. And of course they weigh a lot less now with all the water removed, and but a quart equals about a pound, so that's good to know. All right, well, when we get some time here in the next few days, we're not going to rehydrate the shrimp. If you guys haven't seen the Paella Surprise video, take a look at that, and there's some larger shrimp rehydrated in that. It's real easy, just add water. And but we'll get the marinara and the Stubbs barbecue sauce. We'll take a stab at rehydrating some of that, so we'll get to it next. The food saver, which is what we used to vacuum seal these lids on. And you can also do it in the Harvest Right, but if you're in a hurry because it's bedtime now, you can just do that and it works great. So all right, on to it. Okay, a few months have went by, and we've had this product just stored in a temporary Mylar bag, and this is the marinara sauce. And again, we haven't powdered it because we're wanting to try and, you know, keep some of the texture of the vegetables, tomatoes and stuff that are in the marinara. And so we're just going to put this in a little bowl. I've got some warm water. It's roughly 170 degrees that I make in the Keurig, and we're just going to add some of that to it. And we're just going to let that sit. It's probably going to take more water than that ultimately, but you can see it's already starting to rehydrate. So we're just going to let that go for 15 minutes and then come back, stir it, check it out, and see how it rehydrates. All right. So 15 minutes has went by, and you know, it's still a little gummy. I probably have way too much water in here. Of course, if we were on a backpacking stove, we'd just reduce that. So right in the middle is a little unhydrated, but you can tell there's some texture to the sauce though. So it's not just, you know, blended up. When you blend the marinara in your blender to make a powder out of it, it will hydrate faster because the surface area of each particle is a lot larger, but you're going to lose, maybe that's not too much water. So there's just one little piece, and that may actually be like a chunk of tomato. You know, that's part of the texture that I was talking about. And so, you know, if you're wanting the texture in the foods, it's just going to take a little bit longer to hydrate. Yeah, I suspect that's a chunk of tomato. So anyway, we're going to let it go for another little bit. We're not going to add any heat to it. We're not going to add any more water to it. We're just going to let it go for a little bit. And of course, if you added a few drops of water and then put it on the stove top, you could accelerate this whole process, you know, and then reduce it to the texture you want. But honestly, I mean, that's not a bad texture for marinara. You know, so it's hanging on to the spoon. You can see it's got some texture to it. So, I mean, this is kind of what we were going for right there. And we'll see if we can get that to hydrate on its own, that little chunk of tomato. And then we're going to come back in a little bit and we'll give it a taste test. Okay, another 15 minutes have lapsed. And the texture feels good. The piece that was not hydrated appears to be fully hydrated. And the texture is like marinara, you know, like you might expect. So let's taste it. Well, it's cooled off a little bit. So if you like hot marinara, it's not hot, but the mouthfeel is like marinara. I mean, it's just canned marinara, right? So that's what it tastes like. If it were me, I'd probably want to season this up with just a little bit of heat, throw some jalapenos in there, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the hydration. The hydration worked fine. It's not complicated, and the texture turned out great. So this is a win from a technical point of view. And of course, you could work on your own recipe. If you don't want canned marinara, you can obviously make your own marinara or take the canned marinara and season it ahead of time to what you like. But yeah, I mean, that would be great, you know, any place that you would use marinara. So now we're going to dive into the barbecue sauce. Okay, here is a chunk of one of the blocks of barbecue sauce. I don't have a lot of hope for this because of how tight it got in freeze drying. And I'm not sure, you know, I thought it was frozen solid when I started the cycle. Perhaps because of the high sugar content, it really wasn't frozen solid, and that's why it shrunk up like that. So we may have to revisit the barbecue sauce. It still smells really good. Smells like brown sugar and a hint of mustard, and you know, kind of like barbecue sauce would. So let's get some hot water, fresh hot water, and add to it. And we'll probably just start by waiting 30 minutes for this one, because I just can't imagine it's going to rehydrate quickly. All right, so we've got some 170-degree water, and that's probably way too much water, but again, I don't have a lot of hope for this. I think this one probably deserves a revisit, and maybe put the product in the deep freeze for a couple of days before freeze drying it. The other thing that we could do in a different video is probably try and blend this up in the blender, powder it, and then I'm sure, you know, it would work fine. So, you know, that may be the solution for the barbecue sauce, is just to do it as a powder. Because then if you add too much water to it, it's a lot easier to, you know, add a little more powder to it. But we'll see. So we're going to give this 30 minutes, and then we're going to come back. Okay, so that did not really hydrate. That's not a win. I'm sure if I powdered it, we could get it to reconstitute real quickly into the texture and consistency that we want, but I don't think I'm going to spend any time on that, because I question that this is an ideal freeze-dried product, meaning, you know, the fact that instead of keeping its height in the block, when we freeze-dried it, the center of it dipped down and got really tight and balled up. That's not, potentially that's just a bad freeze-dry, and I'm wondering if the product was really fully frozen when I started the job, because if it wasn't, that could allow for that to happen potentially. And so I'll revisit this process with the Stubbs barbecue sauce in a different video, or at least I'll revisit it. If I get the same result after putting it in the deep freeze for a couple of days and making absolutely certain that it's frozen solid, and I get the same result, probably won't make another video. But if I get a superior result, then we'll go through this whole process again and visit it at that time. So that's it. Thanks for joining today, and if you're interested in a little additional content, then you can check me out on Instagram and Snapchat at FrostySith, and get a little bit of extra content on what we do day to day around here. So check that out, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and when you subscribe, make sure to click the bell and make the selection so that you get notifications every time that we update new content here on the channel. And I hope you enjoyed and found that useful. Stay tuned for more content. We'll have be using some of these products. I don't know if we'll use the marinara product on our upcoming trip or not, but we are going to have some trip vlogs on the Wind River Range coming out. So stay tuned for that, and remember, whenever you can, get up, get out, live a little. See ya. They look good. These are just salt and pepper ones. They're definitely freeze-dried.